The galactic transit station hummed with the usual chaos of 1,000 species moving through its sterile corridors. Paige adjusted the worn strap of her messenger bag, keeping her movements calm and deliberate as she approached the security checkpoint. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but years of practice kept her expression neutral. "Next!" barked the Krell officer, his 4 eyes scanning her with the kind of suspicion reserved for humans in this sector. Paige stepped forward, placing her identification chip on the scanner. The Krell's mandibles clicked together as he reviewed her credentials, his scaled head tilting at an angle that suggested deep skepticism. "Paige Martinez, registered xenobiologist from Earth," he read aloud, his translator rendering his hisses into standard galactic common. "Purpose of travel?" "Research expedition to the Outer Rim colonies," Paige replied smoothly. "I'm studying adaptive behaviors in—" "Bag," the officer interrupted, extending one of his 3-fingered hands. Paige's blood ran cold. Inside the bag, wrapped in her softest blanket, was the reason she'd chosen this particular checkpoint, the one with the most overworked, least attentive staff. But her luck, it seemed, had run out. "Of course," she said, sliding the bag off her shoulder with exaggerated care. The officer snatched it from her hands with far less delicacy. As he lifted it onto the scanning table, Paige saw the blanket shift. Her entire body tensed. "Wait," she began. The Krell plunged his hand into the bag, shoving aside data pads and sample containers. His claws caught the edge of the blanket, and he yanked it aside. A tiny, furred head emerged, golden eyes blazing with indignation. The cub, no larger than a house cat, with midnight black fur striped with bioluminescent patterns, bared fangs that glowed faintly blue in the station's artificial light. "Back off," the cub growled, its voice surprisingly deep for something so small. "This one smells like my human." The checkpoint went silent. Every species within earshot froze, their various auditory organs focused on the impossible sight before them. The Krell officer stumbled backward, his translation implant struggling to process what he'd just heard. That's a Nocturi cub." "Yes," Paige said quietly, stepping between the officer and her bag. "His name is Giovanni. Nocturi are apex predators." The Krell's voice rose to a shriek that had other officers converging on their position. "They're classified as Category 5 dangerous. Sentient predators. You can't just— Humans aren't even on their approved contact list." Giovanni climbed out of the bag with remarkable grace, positioning himself on the scanning table between Paige and the growing crowd of security personnel. Despite his size, every officer present took an involuntary step back. Even in Federation space, the Nocturi's reputation preceded them. "This human is mine," Giovanni stated, his bioluminescent stripes flaring brighter. "She found me when the poachers killed my pack. She fought them. For me." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Humans fighting Nocturi poachers was the stuff of legend, usually because humans didn't survive such encounters. A new figure pushed through the crowd, her crystalline features marking her as a high-ranking Federation arbiter. "Explain," she commanded, her voice resonating with harmonic authority. Paige took a breath. There was no hiding it now. 3 months ago, I was conducting field research on Velos Prime when I encountered a group of Zenthari poachers. They'd slaughtered a Nocturi pack for their bioluminescent glands. Giovanni was the only survivor, barely a month old. "So you stole him," the arbiter stated. "So I saved him," Paige corrected. "The poachers were going to sell him to a fighting ring. I did what anyone with a conscience would do." "Humans," the Krell officer spat, "always thinking they know better than galactic law. The Nocturi Collective will demand your execution for this." Giovanni's growl deepened, and the temperature around the checkpoint seemed to drop several degrees. "The Nocturi Collective will demand medals for her." The arbiter's crystalline form shifted, reflecting her surprise. "Elaborate, young one." This human didn't just fight poachers. She killed 3 Zenthari hunters, each one armed, each one twice her size. She carried me 40 kilometers through hostile terrain to her ship. She had no obligation to my kind, no pact bond, no political alliance. She did it because... Giovanni paused, looking up at Paige with those luminous golden eyes. She said it was the right thing to do. Humans and their morality, someone in the crowd muttered. Yes, Giovanni agreed, surprising everyone. Humans and their morality. Do you know what she feeds me? Synthesized protein specifically formulated for Nocturi cubs at great expense. Do you know how she sleeps? In shifts, because infant Nocturi require monitoring every 3 hours. Do you know what she's teaching me? Not just how to hunt, but mathematics, xenobiology, art, philosophy, everything she knows. The arbiter moved closer, her form casting prismatic light across the checkpoint. You understand that bonding with a Nocturi cub creates a life debt? That when he reaches maturity, his pack will test you? That most species fail these tests and are consumed? I'm aware, Paige said steadily. And you're not afraid? Paige looked down at Giovanni, who had pressed himself against her leg, his purr rumbling through the floor. I'm terrified. But he needed someone, and I was there. That's all that matters. The arbiter was silent for a long moment. Then she reached into her robes and produced a crystal seal. By Federation law, I'm required to report this to the Nocturi Collective and place you both in quarantine pending their judgment. Paige's shoulders sagged. However, the arbiter continued, I'm also required to note acts of exceptional courage and compassion in my reports. The Nocturi respect strength, yes, but they also respect honor. You'll have your hearing, but... She glanced at Giovanni. I suspect you'll find the collective more understanding than you fear. Giovanni's stripes flashed in a pattern Paige had learned meant satisfaction. They will adopt her into the pack, he said confidently. Humans are strange, weak, soft creatures. But this one is mine, and I am hers. The pack will see what I see, a warrior's heart in a gentle form. The Krell officer looked like he wanted to argue, but the arbiter silenced him with a gesture. Your ship leaves in 2 hours. I suggest you board it. When you reach your destination, Nocturi representatives will be waiting. As Paige scooped Giovanni back into her bag, this time openly, she heard whispers following her through the checkpoint. Typical human. Reckless. Insane. Giovanni poked his head out of the bag, looking back at the crowd. No, he said, his young voice carrying surprising authority. Not insane. Human. And that's precisely why she'll survive what's coming. Paige scratched behind his ears as they walked toward the departure gates. No pressure, right? Giovanni purred, his bioluminescent stripes casting dancing shadows on the station walls. You fought Zenthari poachers for me. The collective will be easy. You're a terrible liar, Giovanni. I learned from the best. Paige. Despite everything, the danger ahead, the uncertain future, the weight of the life debt she'd accepted, Paige smiled. Because sometimes, doing the right thing meant walking into the unknown with nothing but hope and a small, fierce friend who believed in you. And in the end, wasn't that what being human was all about?